Hello everyone. This is my first game which I'm commenting in English, and today I want to present you the game Paulsen versus Morphy, which was played in 1857 US Congress. This was the game 2, and people generally present chess games which ended in brilliant combinations and one player won. But this time I want to present a dramatic game of Morphy, and let's just check the circumstances behind the game. So exactly why was this dramatic and an interesting game? So Paulsen started with e4. So I should mention first that Morphy had been on a roll before this game. Out of 10 games, he had won 9 and drew just 1 against Liechtenstein. Although it was, he was winning, but blundered a pawn in a one-end game and then drew the game. So, and when the final started with Paulsen, Morphy won the first game in a brilliant fashion, and then this was the second game. So Paulsen opened with e4, and Morphy played e5. And after knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, knight f6, Morphy plays Berlin. So after castles, now Morphy takes this pawn. And then d4 gets played. And do we have knight d6? No, this is 19th century. So Morphy played a6, which is called the Rosenthal variation, but I have not seen any game prior to this that continued like this. So probably Morphy introduced it to the chess world. Later Zukertort used this with mixed success, and recently, actually, in 2008, Carlsen used it to beat Ivanchuk with this system. So, after bishop d3, which is not a common move, later it was discovered that bishop takes c3 or bishop to a4 was better. So, d5 from Morphy, and already black is close to equality. Now here, Paulsen played knight takes e5, and Morphy played knight takes d4. It was possible to, today players would play knight takes e5, because the problem is the best continuation for black involves after rook e1 to play knight e6, which is crazy. Nobody would play like this in the 19th century. Especially Morphy, because players were all about fast development and stuff. So of course, after bishop e6 from Morphy, c3, knight c6, and now Paulsen can exchange this and then play queen a4. Of course, black is up a pawn, but this will be recaptured. After bishop takes e4, d takes e4, queen takes e4, well, Paulsen has regained a pawn and, has given Morphy a wretched pawn structure. But Morphy has a bishop pair, and they are aimed at the white king, so I wouldn't be happy with a black player if I was a black player here. So knight d2 from Paulsen. Knight needs to get out, so castles. And now, okay, so Paulsen played knight f3, which looks good, but then we'll see with the adventures that knight will go on, that this wasn't a good move. A better move would have been knight c4, but I understand why Paulsen didn't go for this, because after bishop d5, queen e2, now queen has to continue defending the knight, rook a e8, bishop e3, and bishop e7. Now, of course, the knight wanted to get this bishop out of the way, so that now the bishop is not attacking the king. But this probably seemed for Paulsen a bit too weak, because after b3, bishop f6, then this pawn is weak, rook a c1. Again, it's playable position, but Paulsen didn't want to go in for this. But after knight f3, now the attack goes on, because in the previous variation the bishop had to retreat. So bishop d5, just aiming at a king. So queen moves, rook a e8, just getting all pieces into the game. Bishop g5, queen g4, just Morphy goes in for attack, h3, queen h5, and bishop d2. Bishop has to go back because I mean, Morphy was ready to take the knight and then take the bishop. So after bishop d2, rook e6, so Morphy is basically starting to use the rook to attack the king. Now, of course, Anderson could take this rook, but you know, opening the f file is not great news as well. So knight g5 was played. So because the knight is badly placed on f3, so the knight wants to reroute somehow. Now rook g6 from Morphy. Now Anderson spent 30 minutes on playing knight g5 and then continued with another 40 minutes of for playing knight e4. Now this is a very bold move, all right? And you know, Morphy was getting impatient because Paulsen was using a lot of time on these moves. Objectively better was of course c4, and after bishop e6, well, Paulsen could grab the bishop pair or play f4 and do this position. In any case, this would have been a fighting chance for Paulsen. But instead, after knight e4, Morphy just goes all in, because he has no other choice. Now, what would Morphy play here? The most obvious move is bishop e5, just keeping the bishop intact, right? You want to preserve your bishop pair, you're attacking. But then c4, and bishop has to go on e6. And then after knight g3, this is awkward, because the bishop is unprotected, the rook is going to attack it, and of course the queen is attacked. And if queen moves, then the bishop falls. So bishop has to take it, but now, you know, white's position looks fine because white has 3 pawns protecting the king, and you know, one of the bishops are gone, and it doesn't look that scary yet. So after rook takes g2, I mean, there's nothing else. White should take this rook, and now f5. And here, after f5, Paulsen spent another like 50 minutes on this move, and this got Morphy frustrated and did something very dramatic here. But here, rook e3 could have been played. I mean, this looks very, you know, normal, you know, and logical, because rook will go to g3 and protect the king. But unfortunately, after f takes e4 and queen e2, trying to exchange the queens, queen takes e2, rook takes e2, and e3 actually wins bishop. And you know, the resulting endgame is winning, because 2 great bishops in the middle of the board and only 1 rook for it. But okay, this didn't happen. Paulsen played f3, and now there's a spectacular combination that wins. But unfortunately, Morphy was getting impatient after waiting for another 50 minutes, and just this is what happened. There's a comment from the book of the First American Chess Congress. A most unfortunate slip. As soon as the second player had touched the queen, he remarked that he had taken the knight. That had he taken the knight, the contest could not have been prolonged a dozen moves. And that he had the winning combination in his mind, he proved by playing over the following variations immediately after the close of the game. Black's error consisted in reversing what should have been his 23rd and 24th moves. What happened is that Morphy touched his queen. Now he had to play his queen, and what else could he do? He checked. And now, after knight g5, Paulsen was actually winning this. But unfortunately, but what Morphy had in mind was to play f takes c4, and after f takes c4, now queen g6 check, and after king h1, rook f2, this is over, because there are mates threatened on 2 different squares, and after rook g1, rook h2 is mate. But now, you know, imagine waiting for hours and hours for your opponent to play, and then missing a winning combination because of, I don't know, a simple slip of a hand, you know? So basically, after knight g5, white is winning this position. h6 was played by Morphy, because you have to attack the knight until the king moves, or else he will not regain at least a knight even. So, and here c4, the bishop has to go back, and now h4. Now rook d8 first before recapturing the knight, and after queen c2, h takes g5. Morphy has regained something, but still looks terrible. So first Morphy now wants to move his bishop to the e4 square. So bishop e6 first, and after rook h1, now bishop e7. He first attacks this pawn so that this prompts the white pawn to go forward, and now c5. Now Morphy sees this beautiful diagonal. He has to survive somehow. Now rook a e1, king f7, protecting this both bishops. Now rook h3, bishop c8, king g1, just preempting that check, and now bishop b7. Bishop is on a wonderful diagonal, and after bishop c1, rook d4, b3, and now bishop d6. Now Morphy is starting to finish his regrouping, and after queen e2, rook e4, queen f2, and queen e6, well, the game slowly drifted to a draw. Just skip through the moves, but after rook h e3, queen d7, queen h4, king g6, queen h3, and now bishop e7, so that the queen can enter. And Morphy is threatening queen d4, so rook takes d4, rook takes e4, bishop takes e4, queen e3, and queen d8. So Morphy is trying to make Paulsen protect the h file. So queen h3, and now queen d4 check, now bishop e3, and then after a series of moves like this, just skip through it like this, just a moment, like this. Here, after several moves, and bishop b2, king f7, queen h3, okay, this is the critical moment, and when the draw was agreed. Morphy played queen g6, just not letting the white queen enter. And here, Paulsen played rook to h2, and the game ended in draw. But had he played rook d7, attacking this pawn, this should have finished probably with a different result, because basically after king e8, well, this pawn is falling, and then, I don't know, just getting an extra pawn, and probably these queenside pawns would decide the game. But after queen h3 and queen g6, the game ended in draw after white played rook h2. Well, it was a crazy and sad game, really, because Morphy was on a roll, and he was winning with a spectacular combination with rook takes g2, but just one slip of a hand and touching a queen and just messing up the move order just cost him nearly a point here. Yes, the game ended in draw after 15 hours of play. Imagine Paulsen, who is trying to squeeze something out of the position for like 4 or 5 hours, and his opponent's defending it. Imagine defending this for around 10 hours. This is what happened. The game started on Thursday and finished on Saturday, and Paulsen was fed up and just agreed to a draw. It was it was a sad game for Morphy. He collapsed after this. He lost the next game and drew the one afterwards. But then he recovered and won 4 straight games and became the US champion. But yeah, this type of things happen. And thank you for attention.